Now, if you're sick of some clouds and you want to buy network access storage of your own, today's video serves a little bit as a cautionary tale. A reason why you probably shouldn't buy the cheapest NAS on Aliexpress. Because that's what I did for this video, and well, it didn't go great. But first, today's video is sponsored by Be Quiet's new gaming mouse, the Dark Perk. Available in both ergonomic and symmetrical forms, this lightweight gaming mouse not only has a high-performance sensor in it, but it also uses high-quality Omron switches that are both satisfying and quiet. It also comes with this awesome orange braided cable. So if you need a high-performance gaming mouse, check out the Be Quiet Dark Perk using the link down below. Oh yeah, boxception. Oh yeah, love me some untreated steel. In terms of accessories, we get some screws and a power cable. Snazzy. Oh, it's upside down. Now, in terms of I/O, aside from the Mesozoic period port, we actually have usable I/O on here. It even has some audio out on it for some reason, and video out, so we could potentially try and game on this thing if we were really stupid about it, which obviously we're gonna do in this video. Now, unfortunately, it only has gigabit Ethernet, which immediately makes this poo-poo garbage tier, but it was very cheap, so what do you expect? And then this is our little power supply that kind of from the back looks like a Dell Optiplex power supply. Not a whole lot going on this side, but on the front we get our 4 presumably hot swappable hard drive bays. So if we do this, and then this is our HDD caddy. You do have to screw the hard drive into this caddy, which will slow you down a bit, but other than that, it is nice and hot swappable, which is good. Ooh, that's an exciting looking power button. Oh, it's so lame. What? It's so deceptive. It looks like it would have a really nice click to it, but it's like sticking your finger in custard. And then finally, this is what the inside of the bays look like where the hard drives connect to. Now, in terms of specs, this NAS is rocking a Celeron N2940, which is a quad-core Celeron that was launched back in 2014, which means this NAS is a complete beast. Now, obviously, because it's a NAS, it doesn't need to be super powerful, but these older chips won't be as efficient as a newer, like ARM-based NAS solution. Although its TDP is still tiny, so it should be fine. Anyway, with that, let's plug in our octogenarian and see if our super cheap AliExpress NAS actually works. I am very curious to see what kind of operating system it has on it. I'm kind of assuming it's going to be like FreeNAS or something, but let's see. I haven't plugged power into it yet. Ooh. Beep. Another beep. Some noise. Another beep. Okay, that is a strong start. It is just cycling. I mean, it could very well be that there just is nothing on it.
A few moments later.
Okay, well, that's progress. It's now beeping incessantly and not turning off and on. At which point I decided to quickly check the listing again, and it turns out this was a Barebones NAS. Okay, so apparently I do need to open it straight up because, well, there's no RAM or storage in it. Okay, well, straight off the bat, you can see we have our PC in the bottom here, and then all of our SATA cables are routed up the side. Some of those fan cables don't look super well plugged in, but they did seem to work. We did have fans spinning. On the other side, we have our little power supply. This is an FSP unit, which is really good. That's good to know. They're like a proper company. And it's a 180 watt power supply, which I'm assuming should be good enough for 4 hard drives and the Celeron we have in here. Below that, I'm assuming is what cools our Celeron. The problem I'm seeing here, though, is that's our RAM slot over here, and that's gonna be really difficult to get to. I may have to unscrew the power supply and take that out so that I can actually reach the upgrade. I'm also not sure where to plug our storage into. Apparently this does have a separate like OS slot on it, but we're gonna have to go spelunking to find that. And I actually don't know how much taking the power supply out is gonna help because it's sitting on this little ledge that is also gonna block access. But I guess it's a bit better. There's just a loose, crumpled bit of plastic in the bottom of our NAS. I'm sure that's fine. So now that the power supply's out, I've barely made more room, although I'm sure I'll be able to figure out how to finger stick a RAM in there. The main problem I have now is digging out some DDR3L somewhere. Oh, and I've also found the well-hidden storage slot. It's on the other side, and it's an mSATA slot, another type of storage I don't think I just have lying around. Luckily, I'm pretty sure this old Alienware laptop has the RAM we need for our NAS. Oh, there we go. It's not the whole thing that comes off. Now this should be an 8 gig stick of DDR3L, which is the version of DDR3 that we need. DDR3L is a slightly lower voltage version of DDR3, and well, systems that need DDR3L aren't backwards compatible with normal DDR3, so hopefully this is fine. There's an L there though, so I think it should be good. Why is there a fan port right next to it? It would have been so much easier if that wasn't there. I then proceeded to spend ages struggling to get the RAM in, which made for great watching. Oh, like, is this good content, just watching me struggle to finger in the darkness? Come on. Oh, I think it's in. Yay! We did it! Now, unfortunately, I don't just have an mSATA drive lying around for this thing. I did order one, it should come soon, but in the meantime, while we wait for it, I think we've got something very constructive we can do with this system. I'm gonna use this normal SSD to install an operating system on this thing to see what kind of gaming performance we get from like $120 NAS off Aliexpress. And then once the mSATA drive shows up, we can see how it functions as an actual NAS. But for now, let's get some Windows on it. And once I finally successfully struggled the cover on, I dropped my Windows boot drive in and everything worked perfectly. Oh, wait, no, sorry, I read that wrong. It actually didn't work at all. So let's see what it does. Okay, it's immediately turned off, but it didn't beep at us because there's RAM in it now. And I mean, we have like 8 gigs of RAM in here, so this is like a baller setup. It's basically got a used car worth of RAM in it. Hey, okay, that's very promising. But even without the beeping and a solidly lit up power button, I wasn't getting a signal out of the system. I then decided to try the Mesozoic period port on the back with an older monitor, which also didn't work, so I decided to chalk it up to the system just needing that mSATA slot filled. So I decided to call it a day and wait for the drive to show up. And with my wildly expensive mSATA drive here, I struggled it into the hole on the system, and surprise, surprise, it did actually work this time. Hey! And just as the OS finished installing and things were looking real promising, the system started crashing. Like a lot. The crashes were so frequent I couldn't even download Firefox before the system went down. I then tried installing Windows 10 on the system, but that just kept crashing during the installation process, so at this point I couldn't even get an operating system on it anymore. Fuck. It's not an OS issue. It's definitely a hardware issue. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this RAM back in and see if it fixes it. But switching out the RAM with other DDR3L, which took me another whole day to track down, also didn't fix the problem. So I decided to take out my frustration on this NAS with a good old-fashioned violent teardown. Now Now, unfortunately, at this point, the main camera I was using to film all of this had forsaken me and corrupted all of the footage. But basically, I decided the next thing to test was a different power supply. And luckily, I had a Silverstone power supply that happened to be the exact same form factor as the one in the NAS that I could use to replace it with. And lo and behold, with the NAS's motherboard lying naked on a desk plugged into a strange power supply, it fixed it. No more crashing. And with Windows successfully running, I decided to do a cheeky gaming test before we get on to the next hurdle, which is installing actual NAS software on the NAS. Wow, look at that. We could do some gaming on our cheap Aliexpress NAS. Once you've replaced the power supply, because that might ship dead. Okay, well, now that we're outside, it's not going great. We're sitting in the mid-40s, dipping to the mid-30s sometimes, depending on where we're looking, which is a problem for a game that can run on your granny's self-cleaning stove. But I mean, it is a NAS, so it's not like this is its natural environment. It's not like this is what it's designed to do. So I guess when everything's said and done, it's actually kind of impressive that game is running on it. But with that, let's drop it back into its case, which by some miracle the new power supply is actually compatible with, so that we can drop some hard drives in this bad boy, install TrueNAS on it to see how it handles its natural environment. Now, in terms of hard drives, I'm going to use these 4 4-terabyte Iron Wolf red drives, which just mysteriously showed up in the mail one day a couple of years ago. Okay. I don't know who sent it, but if it was you, thank you. It's very useful for this. There we go. They're all in there now.
A few moments later.
Oh, it's not reading my TrueNAS USB for some reason. How did I screw up using Rufus? Okay, well, I don't know. Let me go try again with Belina Etcher, maybe? I don't understand why it's not working. So to confirm if I managed to screw up making a bootable USB drive, which is like the only PC thing I know how to do, I decided to test my drive in a different system. So I don't understand what's going on. The flash drive works in a different device, but the little NAS doesn't find it at all. So does that mean that it's not compatible with TrueNAS? Now at this point, as they'd say in Afrikaans, my moer is suur vir hierdie NAS. But despite this ancestral rage bubbling up in me, I decided to reach out to the Aliexpress seller to see if they had any advice. So I just messaged the Aliexpress seller. It's now also after the weekend, so my mood's a bit better. But yeah, so they gave me a bunch of suggestions, and one of the suggestions was to set the boot option to UEFI. Now it is set to UEFI and Legacy, but maybe it needs to be UEFI only for it to pick up the boot drive. Okay, so it's not picking up the Unraid one. But this is the Unraid one, so I'm gonna remake the TrueNAS one and see what that does. And then if that doesn't work, I don't know. It's still not there. At which point I had tried everything the seller had suggested, and I still couldn't get a Linux-based NAS operating system on this thing. I mean, the whole point of buying an off-the-shelf NAS is that it's supposed to be way more user-friendly than building your own NAS, something which I've done with way less effort, by the way. And that's not even taking into account the fact that it's shipped with a dying power supply, which brings me finally to the end of this video. I am so tired of it, I just need it out of my life. Please go away, NAS. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this video. Bye-bye.